step forward.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Then and Now podcast. This is your co-host C Diesel, the Loose V, and Professor E King of the Comics, Ethan Murphy. How are y'all doing, my brothers?
I'm good, man. It's good to see y'all. It's been a minute. I apologize for all my absences and absenteeisms, but I'm back. It's good to see y'all.
I'm good. I'm happy he called me by my stage name and not my government. So I mean that's plus. Maybe we start off on a good foot today.
I try. I forgot the surnames, but we'll remember those.
You got mine. You threw mine right up in there. He said, "Here's his Christian name right here." So that is okay. How you doing though, Dev?
I'm good. A little fatigued, but I'm good. I don't want to waste time. I want to get into this thing. We haven't done a POI in a good bit. And due to the recent success of the women in WWE and SmackDown, I think this past Monday or the Monday before that, that inspired me to bring up a topic that I think we've discussed briefly on the show before, but we've never dived in deep into it. That being the Femme Fatale, that plot device, I guess, for lack of a better term.
Trope.
I get trope. Yeah, that's a better word for it. Professor E, writing savant, do you want to let the people know what a femme fatale is for anybody hearing this term for the first time?
I mean, sure. I don't even have the definition right in front of me, but basically, a femme fatale is more or less a female heroine, obviously, character that is meant to be somewhat of a non-traditional hero in a story, but the story is centered around them in some way, where that character, as opposed to the damsel in distress, needs to be saved. This is the character that can hold her own. Her means are not always as orthodox as you might think, but in the end, she is traditionally trying to do something for the overall, for the greater good. The classic tropes, some classic examples, of course, are the more recent iterations of Catwoman or Atomic Blonde, like those kinds of things, where they are the woman who has her back against the wall, but she is somehow able to survive things that are overwhelming. Another recent example, of course, is Furiosa from the Mad Max Beyond. Was it Road Rage? Not Road Rage, but the last Mad Max movie. And then she has another one coming up again, starring Anya Taylor-Joy. So,
OJ Big Blur, how would you distinguish a femme fatale versus just a regular female protagonist in the story? What would you see as some key distinctive differences between them?
Honestly, I gotta ask E a question here on this too, because in hearing the definition, I need a little bit more clarity on what applies versus doesn't. So would a character like Vi from Arcane, would she count as a femme fatale, or she's more of a female protagonist there? And then I can answer your question a little bit better.
That's a good question. I mean, because typically what it originated from was when dealing with spy novels and noirs, essentially. So like I mentioned, Atomic Blonde with Charlize Theron, that's kind of meant to be something like that, or even like Black Widow in the comic books more so than the MCU movies. That is what's a more traditional femme fatale. That's someone that is clearly dangerous, and in a lot of ways you can see them as very much an antagonist, or someone who has doing some less than scrupulous things. However, that woman is still somehow in the end of the day, she's helping, doing more good than harm. Ada Wong is literally been dubbed the best or the greatest femme fatale in all video games. So it's kind of hard. It is a very, very thin line trying to define exactly what a femme fatale is compared to a female protagonist. But they are very much anti-heroes at best. They're anti-heroes, and at worst they are bad guys. They're bad guys doing good, so to speak. Sometimes too, they are very dangerous, but they're very fun to watch, and they oftentimes are still on the greater good side.
So what I've noticed, at least from most characters that I've noticed given the title of a femme fatale, I look at the word itself being femme as in female, feminine, and obviously fatale being fatal. Mm-hmm. I tend to see characters like a Catwoman, Black Cat, characters like that, maybe a Poison Ivy, that understand the power that a woman's sexual nature has over people, not even just men, and using that to their advantages rather than them. So you see it all the time with Catwoman and Batman, where she's lack of a better term, risen them up, and she has this attention here and all this sexual energy while she's stealing something out of his utility belt. Same thing with like Catwoman, or again with Poison Ivy, she's risen you up and then utilizing the death kiss on you. That's been the thing that I've kind of associated with femme fatales, women that tend to utilize their sexual energy and using that for their own benefit, whether that be for just thievery, positive stuff, or even just murder outright. That's one thing I've noticed. So I didn't know that was like a necessary trait that had to be associated with the character for them to be considered a femme fatale.
Yeah, you're right. And actually, that's you hit the nail even harder on the head than I did, because in traditional senses, the actual I have the actual definition here. I'll read it right quick. So, a femme fatale is an attractive and seductive woman, especially one who is likely to cause distress or disaster to a man who becomes involved with her. So,
Jennifer's
even
Bloody.
with that, I think the movie is an old school reference, but Double Indemnity is one that is all about a femme fatale. Femme fatales aren't even necessarily meant to be the heroes at all. They may literally just be the villain. It seems like it could be someone who's the woman that lived in the red dress. You've all seen The Matrix. That was obviously meant to be highlighting that trope as far as woman in the red dress. That's meant to distract the protagonist, the male, and cause it run amok. It may be that the femme fatale is not a hero at all. Maybe the femme fatale is literally just a bad guy that happens to be a woman. So it's
Species.
Species. Yeah, that movie Species.
Oh yeah, Adrian Brody one, right?
Yes, yeah, he's in that movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it's I think I may have misconstrued some things here, but it seems like the femme fatale does not have to be involved with heroism at all. A lot of examples we've seen in more recent years of femme fatale is doing good, like Black Widow, Black Cat, Catwoman, those things, but it's not necessarily the case.
Bayonetta, I guess.
Bayonetta, possibly, but I guess to get to the real definition, it seems like there has to be based on it may be an antiquated definition, because it's pretty much they are only defined by them being able to distract men or be involved with men. But there's the movie came out recently too with Jennifer Lawrence called like Red Sparrow, where she was basically trained like Black Widow as far as they're trained to be spies to get inside and to be have all kinds of crazy operative missions and to acquire information. And the whole idea with them is that they are meant to be extremely sexy and extremely good at seducing males to do for their missions. They are clearly femme fatales. That's the whole point. They use their feminine wiles and their abilities to infiltrate. And no pun intended, Charlie. So that's the idea.
So a question I have for you, OG Big Blur, in regards to femme fatales, because again, we've seen a lot of them as we've mentioned in previous conversation. What would you say is maybe just an example of how would you go about utilizing a character like that in a correct manner that doesn't feel one exploitative or two just cheap in general?
Well, I mean, when it comes to how I would apply a femme fatale to, I don't think you necessarily have to do anything out of the ordinary with them. If you have a woman that has a mission that is, that she is willing to accomplish at the expense of a guy, just set that scene up. As you said, like, let her rizz him up. Let her have an ulterior motive. Get it, and either have her take out the guy that that she had to rizz up to get it, or escape, and that's now a quest for that probably male protagonist to accomplish. I don't think this one isn't necessarily like a formulaic one, because I mean, it's very rare that a femme fatale is like anything outside of what it is, right? Like, I don't know how you nuance that character beyond, like, having their motivations be just in the end. It's a means to an end. Mm-hmm. But I mean, it's pretty straightforward. You set up a situation where the woman wants something, whether it be by her own goal or by someone she's working for, and she gets it by any means necessary, using her feminine wiles to do it. And since men are really easy to manipulate by attractive women, it ain't that hard.
No, it's,
So
it happens pretty consistently, honestly. Yeah.
I think from that standpoint, at least for me, from I can't remember what the name of this movie was, or I've seen a couple of different instances where, and I wish we had a woman here to ask this question too, because it'd just be better coming from a woman from a woman's perspective.
Yeah,
but
obviously.
in regards to utilizing that riz, like, because when you think about men, right, in the sense of that attractive man who can riz up women and have all this charisma and charm about them, most men don't have that charm right off the bat, or even know how to apply that in senses of when they need to utilize it. Like you can't be a Bond or I guess whatever Antonio Banderas is like a Zorro or something of that sort. Mm-hmm. So I'd assume that it's kind of the same thing with women where growing up, you don't just, some women do. So I've met someone where they just know how to, but I'd assume that women don't understand how to just naturally have that charm right off the bat. So I kind of would treat it very similarly that you would treat any character with any kind of personality quirk or way about going about things, showing them kind of at least going through the process of understanding the power they have in that sense, as well as maybe having it to where there's characters that maybe that aren't as easy to where, because you know with some men, again, every man is attracted to different types of people, different types of women. So maybe she has to learn how to utilize a particular thing this man likes in order to get him interested. Different things like that. At least for me, if I'm utilizing that character and I'm trying to go outside of the norm, I wouldn't just make it an A to A. Oh, she's attractive, because again, like I said, everybody's attracted to different things. So how can this character go about utilizing what they have as far as their appearance and knowledge of how men work to their advantage? Because you got to approach different people in different ways in any other standpoint. Why would attractiveness be not 100% different? There's some women I don't even say some women are universally attractive, because everybody likes what they like. Some people are attracted to other people. Sure. So I don't think there's like any universally attractive person.
No. Yeah. But at the same time, if Rihanna's applying pressure, she gonna get what she wants.
That's to us, though. I feel like there are a good bit of men in the world that aren't. Well, there are women in general who aren't attracted to black women. Period.
There are women. There are women that if she applied pressure to, they.
But there are plenty of people that just aren't attracted to women at all. You mentioned Bond, James Bond before. I would say that James Bond is basically a male Fatale, or a mem Fatale, whatever you want to call it. As far as like a lot of his missions, he's about him. Finding some way to infiltrate with women. They may not know who he is, or may know exactly who he is. He says his name every time he gets a chance to, and he's able to kind of basically, that's part of the mission, is to seduce said woman, and once you seduce them, take said object back to said base or whatever it is. What may be fun to do essentially is if we have more, because essentially they are spies. They are spies. Like Catwoman, I think, is still a femme fatale, like you said before. She's able to seduce Batman, the world's greatest detective, and confuse him. Talia has too. Mm-hmm. In the movie that's not that great, spoiler alert for The Dark Knight Rises, Talia 100% is a femme fatale into her dying breath. So there are ways you can have fun with it. The best way to have fun with it, I believe, is more or less how long you can keep the audience in the dark about them. If the audience genuinely believes, oh, this is the sweetest young lady ever in this movie, in this story. She's doe-eyed and she's wearing just a simple apron. She doesn't know what her up from down. And it turns out, oh, by the way, I've been playing you from the beginning. I have a whole base set up behind me, and I'm going to kill you. And the movie literally ends with the hero like dying, and she has a gun over him, and she pulls the trigger. It's like, wow, I didn't see that coming. That Femme Fatale won the end, so to speak. So there are ways you can definitely have fun with it. It's all about perspective and how much nuance as far as the character themselves, where you deliver the reveal, I think.
And to play off of that a little bit further, I think having something, I guess, very parallel to like a buddy cop thing where you have a straight man and obviously the over rambunctious character. In the same sense, when it comes to like a femme fatale, going back to Batman and Catwoman, I think part of the reason that made that character interesting is Batman is so disciplined and so stern on not fraternizing with even just members of his team that he knows are heroes, but women in general. So you have this seductive woman who is like slowly breaking down his layers into the point to where he has a soft spot for her. Mm-hmm. And in the comics, gets married on multiple occasions. So I think I think that's again where the femme fatale thing can become more interesting, because you have to show that not all men are that easy, I guess. I mean, because we want to say all men are or aren't, but again, I think showing a level of difficulty in any sense or showing a challenge it just makes things interesting.
Yeah, but I don't think that applies necessarily directly to Femme Fatales. I think that's literally anything ever. If there's not difficulty in getting to that, then it's not interesting, right? Like,
Right.
if you have a person, called Saitama, that can one punch anything, you have to generate difficulties from somewhere to make that thing interesting. That is why, Superman stories are hard to follow, because it's hard to make something difficult for him. Like,
I don't think the entertainment comes from the action itself, because like you said, like every challenge is interesting, but I think it's the journey as far as how is she breaking this, like how is she breaking Batman down? Is it what she's saying? Is it little 30 things like stealing his utility belt? Like that journey is what people really want to see. Because at the end of the day, let's say if it's a love story or a rom-com, we know how it's going to end 9 times out of 10 because the rom-com are usually together at the end. But we want to see all the funny, quirky moments and how it gets there. It's the journey. At least for me personally, I can't speak for everybody, but for me personally, that's what I enjoy seeing in Femme Fatales or anything in that sense is, okay, how are they breaking down this character? Especially a character like Batman, where he's so, like, we've seen him turn down Wonder Woman in instances like that, or other extremely attractive women. What did she do that was different in the journey there?
But I think the one thing we do have to highlight too with Catwoman is that there's some sincerity. So as opposed to Talia in the Dark Knight Rises, who did all that stuff and clearly was BS, Catwoman does have genuine feelings for Batman. So even though she is doing things maybe with some ulterior motives, in the end she still does care about him. She still will save his life, and she still will help him on missions consistently. We've all seen, or most of us have seen, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, at least the Amazon Prime show. The movie with Angelina Jolie and Brad Pitt was kind of a bit of a play on that, as far as them both femme fatale each other almost unknowingly, and then ended up married. So what do you do when you're married to your own femme fatale? What do we do next? So it can be very interesting, to be honest with you guys.
Yeah, I mean,
You want to say something, Otis?
It's like when it comes to, we've covered this in most of our POIs, but I mean, anytime you add nuance to a character and find ways to address a trope that people are aware of in a way that is unique to whatever form that you're putting it through, I mean, that's always a good thing. But at the end of the day, like, anytime you get to see a person do a difficult task against all odds, that's what people look for in content in general. People watch cooking shows for them to cook difficult food. People watch sports for them to hit tough shots over good defenders. Like, if there's no actual difficulty to the mark and they just continue to do easy things over and over, it's going to get old.
Well, guys, I think we're about at our wrap-up time here when it comes to this POI in particular. But if you guys want to hear more about Femme Fatales or even anything adjacent to it or parallel to it, let us know in the comments below. Let us know on any of the social media platforms we are on, and we'll be able to talk about this and other POIs more as time goes forward. Again, this has been Captain Diesel, Lushvi, and Professor E, King of the Comics, Ethan Murphy. Thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll see you guys next time. Peace.
Peace.